Hi there, students. To shun. Shun. To shun means to avoid, to turn your back on. So you could shun things, you avoid using them. You could shun people, to avoid somebody socially, to avoid having social contact with them. Or maybe just not to use. So he shunned the lift and used the stairs. So to shun, to take pains to avoid something or somebody, to blackball if you like. Society shunned him, society blackballed him. So to shun, to reject, to ignore, to keep out of the way of. Okay, to take pains in avoiding. You could shun doing something. So he shuns using ready-made meals and prefers to cook his recipes from scratch. So he shunned the world. He turned his back on the world and avoided everybody. He became a hermit. He was shunned by the world. The world turned its back on him. The world blackballed him, if you like. So nobody would talk to him. I believe that Mormons shun alcohol, tobacco, and hot drinks like tea and coffee. Quakers shun violence. They turn their back on violence. They reject violence. This is not something that should be part of their lives. A vegetarian shuns meat. They avoid eating meat. They don't use it. They don't eat meat. Banks should shun risky lending. Okay? Avoid, turn their back on. So let's look at the origin of this word to shun. Apparently it comes from Old English, the word skunion, which means to abhor, to shrink back in fear, to look for safety away from an enemy. And apparently this word skunion is more than 1,000 years old. Okay? So to shun, to avoid contact with. Now the next question is formality. I think shun is a rather formal word. I'd probably give it something like 6.5 in formality, something like that. You could use shun in a conversation in the pub, although it would sound a little weird. It would sound literary and a bit posh. And I think maybe turn your back on, or not use, or avoid would be much better. I think to shun, if you're writing an essay, is a brilliant word to use. Yeah? He shunned the bright lights for a more sober and honest life. Or if you're writing something very formal, maybe man should shun the use of fossil fuels if he wants to address this problem of global warming. Notice as well, to shun is a regular verb. He shunned the use of electricity. He shunned the people who frequented that place. Okay? So, to shun, to avoid using, to turn your back on something or somebody, or simply not to use. He shunned the use of aeroplanes because they frightened him, and he was always very nervous flying. So, to reject, to ignore, yeah? You should shun lesser quality items and only go for the best. But remember, it's a little bit formal and not going to sound natural in an informal conversation. It needs to be something mid-formality to very formal. Okay? So, to shun, regular verb, to avoid, to turn your back on, to steer clear of, to take pains to avoid. So, there we go, enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. To Shun.